Chris, kick us off before we get to all this. Summer Game Fest news.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask, do you want to lead with that, since that's essentially the reason we waited?
Your thing happened first.
That's true. So I guess it was this week? Shoot. Yes, it was Monday. Gosh, my timeline is all jacked in my head. Was Apple's WWDC, which stands for Worldwide Developers Conference.
Yes, it was.
And in the past, it's a developers conference, so it's mainly about showing. Developers will fly in and they'll kind of like learn. They'll have all these sessions and things they can do and learn about the new upcoming versions of the OS and stuff. And Apple will say, like, here's some sneak peek at future versions of iOS, Mac OS, all these various things. And over the years, lots of times they'll also introduce new hardware, but it's not a given. There's definitely been times where new hardware is not there at all. It's really just mainly software focused because it's aimed at developers, even though they broadcast it and everybody essentially watches it.
It's really a press conference.
Yeah, really. I mean, and pretty much.
It's become that, at least.
And one of the things that they released at this WWDC that's developer focused is, and it has kind of it's a goofy name. It's called the Game Porting Toolkit, which is GPT, by the way, which is kind of odd that it's called that. But essentially, you know, Apple's kind of said for a while now, and especially as they've been going into this transition to where they're using ARM-based stuff that's all in-house built, the Apple Silicon chips, because they can run the same stuff because iOS is run and iPad OS are all run off of ARM. They can essentially run all those things. So as they've been going to this, Apple's been getting more and more, paying a bit more attention to the gaming side. To be fair, though, mostly on like, we can now play all these gaming things that are on iOS. But with this game porting toolkit, essentially what this does is it lets developers bring in their Windows-based and Windows-coded games, and it emulates this into Mac OS. And its purpose is you can run your game through this and basically figure out, like, okay, if there are any issues, where are the issues, or where we might need to do some polish. And you can kind of get an idea, like, okay, if we wanted to go forward to port this game over to Mac, these are the areas where we need to fix. And not only that, but this tool will also auto fix and auto cross over some of the different APIs and whatnot that'll go to the Apple API. So like DirectX 12, it'll change those things over to the Metal API and various things, and shaders and all this other crazy stuff that's developer focused that I don't fully understand. But the cool thing about this is that there's people, as people have been digging into this and playing with it, or that have developer accounts, they're finding out that, oh my gosh, a lot of these games, like a huge number of these games that we're putting in here, are just working. And I can just play them. I can play Cyberpunk. I can play The Medium. I can play all these other games that are even newer. They're running on Unreal Engine 4 and heavily use DirectX 12. Just using this tool, they're able to work. It's like, okay, well, so if a developer runs their game through this and finds out that it basically runs fine, that means that in theory, almost all the porting could just be handled by the stuff that, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, kind of auto ports things over. It's just, it runs it through. You don't have to add in a whole bunch of brand new code and rewrite from the source code up just to get it to work on a completely different platform. And it'll get you it makes your development time, if you decided to port it over, way shorter. And in some aspects, you may have almost very little that you're gonna have to do, relatively speaking, to make this happen. Now, I watched a few videos because I was like, well, shoot. I mean, now I don't have a developer account. I think there's something ridiculously cheap, like only $100 if you wanted one. Like if you just really wanted to be on the bleeding edge of all this kinds of stuff. But I was like, man, is this just like a program? How does it work? It's a little more involved in that to get it running. That people that do, developers that work code and stuff all the time, probably makes a whole lot more sense to them. So it's not like you just boot up an app and then games just run in it. But it's still super interesting, and it gives people like me who live in the Apple ecosystem and have Apple computers everywhere. I've said for years, it's like, man, back in the days when Apple first started, like most of the games were actually built there. And that's where they all were. In fact, if I remember correctly, Halo was going to be a Mac game. And then Microsoft swooped in, bought Bungie, and said, nah, let's make this for the Xbox. And then it became, history went and played throughout that way. But it's like, oh man, I would love for Apple to get back into gaming and make it to where, and I don't need every game available there, but it'd be nice to have one other option that's just already at my fingertips because I'm already using that ecosystem anyways. So if this helps get things there, that's or even close to being in the Windows realm, I think that'd be awesome. And on top of all of that, just real quick, because it just made me kind of similar to what Gabe was talking about with the Spider-Verse. I didn't expect it, so I jumped up and like put my hands up. But Kojima was on the press conference, and he was.
Amazing.
He's bringing, as far as I understand it, natively running. The game's blanking on me. The director's cut of Death Stranding. I was about to say Metal Gear. I've got all this Metal Gear stuff on my head. I was like, that's not the right game. Death Stranding director's cut is coming to macOS. Now, I've already got the game here, and I don't think I'm going to be buying it a second time, but it was still super awesome. And he's always been like a big Apple guy, at least in front facing and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, his games haven't run on it in the past, but it was just really cool. And I know that for him, that was probably like a really cool thing for him to do, kind of thing. Like he probably geeked out a little bit as well, and it's kind of cool to think of Kojima geeking out about something. So anyways, I just thought that was a really cool moment for someone who's a fan of not just Apple stuff, but also a fan of Kojima and has been for years. So all that I thought was really cool and a neat little thing. So because Gabe wanted me to bring this up, I'm going to mention it. Apple did also introduce a headset that they're calling Apple Vision. I believe it's Vision Pro. I think is its actual name, Vision Pro. I don't think Apple's technically
Apple Vision Pro.
Is it Apple? Is that part of the name?
I think so. I feel like they put the logo, then it said Vision Pro. So I think they were calling it Apple Vision Pro.
Well, let's just go with that. It's called Apple Vision Pro. We'll say it's really not gaming focused, and the fact that gaming, as we just talked about a moment ago, really isn't a thing on Mac other than iOS games and games that you can play on your iPad. It's not really a thing. So it probably doesn't necessarily fit for us to talk in depth about. Well, but
the point you made earlier, though, is kind of why I wanted to bring it up, because it is like this developer thing. I would just imagine with, gosh, how strong that thing is going to be, that developers will take it, just like they do with the iPhone. Like, I don't know if any of us foresaw the App Store. Like when they introduced the phone, like the apps that would get made for this phone, and that almost become the driving force of having one early on. You know what I'm saying? Like, like those games weren't anywhere to be found on Android side or whatever existed at the time, right?
Sure.
And so, like, one of the things I thought was, okay, this looks like a see-through thing, but it's not really a see-through thing. It's real. But people will probably make all kind of crazy AR things for this that we've never been able to experience before.
If I recall correctly, they called it an AR/VR headset. It really leans much more to the AR side than it does the VR side, even though it can become completely shut off to where you're just inside of it, and it's not, you can't see through it, or people can't see your digital eyes essentially on the screen that's on the front of it.
That's the other thing. Can you explain that real quick? Because I don't think people realize that's what's going on.
So if you see any of the pictures from it, or any of the short little videos of it where someone walks in front of it and is starting to talk to a person, or you're in the same space as a person that's using this thing, it could change to where, so it has this kind of color, like little thing that's happening on the front to let a person outside. It looks like a
screensaver almost on the front.
Yeah, almost. Just to kind of let a person outside know that, hey, the person that's in this right now, like they can't see. Like they've set it up, or they're using it in a way where it's blocking everything out. But if they're in a mode, which is the majority of the use based on the way that they've kind of showed it, where a person could be seen, it basically puts a digital version of their eyes on the front. But I say digital, and just initially that just sounds goofy, but from everything that you can see, and obviously I haven't seen it in person, but as many videos and things that I've seen of it, it looks better than you would expect. It almost looks like their eyes, because they're actually like,
that's what I was saying,
they're set back too. Like they're not on the front, because this thing's obviously protruding from your face, but because it's a screen on the front of it as well, they're like displayed with depth to where they're back where your eyes actually would be if your face was if it was just completely see-through.
And it is your eyes.
Yeah, because they scan your face to create like an avatar.
Yes. So it's like all the pictures you've seen where you see somebody wearing it and you see those eyes, those are not real eyes.
I did not realize that. Yeah.
No, they're
right.
They're not.
Everybody thinks that like the kind of the film lifts and you're able to see through it. Well, even on the inside of the mask, what you're seeing out is not see-through. You're still seeing a camera
Yes.
on a screen.
Right.
You're not seeing straight through like it looks like you're seeing. And this is just projecting.
Yeah.
It's just so crazy. Oh, it's just so crazy.
And the screen, what you're seeing on the inside of it is like, they haven't given, as far as I have been able to find, not exact specs for each eye, but they say it's over 4K per eye. Which
yes,
I
not
think,
combined.
I think
like
is the
everybody else
highest
says.
that's out there currently.
It's definitely the highest.
Yeah.
And so again, I would love to try this thing. I don't look. Even if it's in the next 3 or 4 years, the way that I use computers and the things that I do is very different from, I guess, most normal adults. I just don't see myself having a need for this thing. I don't have any real desire to own it, but I would love to put this thing on and see it and just experience it and see, because like the thing that I was putting in our Discord, because people were chatting about it, in the pro and con area back and forth, but I threw up this gif of Iron Man when he's like in his little area and he's like got all these screens, he's just like throwing them around and doing all this thing. I was like, this is the thing that everybody's trying to work towards, that you hope that one day in some crazy way it's going to be able to get to.
Right.
It's like, this is not there, but to date, it's seemingly the closest we've gotten so far. So I just want to experience it. They're going to have them at like Apple stores at some point where people can try them. And I absolutely want to sign up for a test just to go try it out.
I cannot wait to try it. And just to go a little deeper into the thing, no controllers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
For anybody that's not seeing anything, no controllers, just your hands. That's it.
Yeah.
There is and you just like tap your finger to your thumb. That's how you click. It's got this incredible eye tracking inside.
Kind of thing. If you're scrolling a web page,
there's no mouse. It's all eye tracking. So you look at it, you touch your fingers. That's how you click on it.
And the fact that there are so many cameras on it that you don't have to hold it up in front of you and click. It can be beside you on
like
the chair.
down in your
just
lap.
casually by your side, and you're just like, flick. It's insane.
Now, I don't know if it could be down by your side, like if you were standing up straight, like
I don't
next
know
to your
about
leg.
that, but like if it's in your lap or
but
something.
I think, I think it's got to be like something like that. It can't be behind your back, obviously.
Right. So,
but man, oh man,
I think you can use this term somewhat fairly, but as over-engineered as this thing is, and as you might expect, it carries a hefty price tag. This thing is $3,500 when it's going to release in 2024.
Wait. You're missing some key words there. This thing is starting at $3,500 is how they worded it. And so like if they would have said $3,500, I'd have been like, okay, obviously that's incredibly expensive. But like, it makes me wonder, like, I wonder what the bump ups are. Are they hard drive space? Is it battery size? Is it, so is it going to get up to be a 4,700 for the Back Daddy one? You know what I'm saying?
I would assume because of the way that they engineered it for comfort and all their Apple way of making things as thin as it can be and all that kinds of stuff, they didn't want to put a bunch of heavy batteries in it, so it connects on the side, and it's tethered to a battery that you can like put in your pocket or however you want to put it.
Which is a little
basically
weird.
Just looks like yes, it does. Like a little power bank, which is obviously not what you want. I'm assuming they're going to come in other sizes because the one that they showed off in all the demos says that it only has a 2-hour battery life on that one.
Yes.
And I'm assuming if you buy extras, let's say they don't have other sizes, but you could buy extra ones. So I'm sure that's going to be a place where there's an additional cost. Another area where this comes in with the way like Apple's like design and function over practicality. If you wear glasses, you cannot wear your glasses with this.
Mm-hmm.
So
you can't?
You cannot. So you have to buy what they're doing on the floor is people, if a person comes up and they're wanting to test it and they have glasses, some way or another, they have them take off their glasses, they scan it to get the prescription off of it, and then they have Zeiss lenses inserts that go over the glass on the inside. So if you buy this, you're likely going to have to buy those Zeiss lenses, I would assume, which is also crazy because, I mean, people's prescriptions change. So that's kind of crazy. So that's probably going to be an area where there's added cost. So if you either are fine with contacts or you have great eyesight, well, that's going to woohoo for you.
I genuinely thought about that, and I was like, oh, you know what? They probably have a thing where they're like, close one eye. Is it in focus yet? And you can change the focal thing of each picture or whatever and make it of each
Yeah, the
lens.
The way that I read it, from the demo side and everything, is that it's like the lenses on the inside of the thing come out and they put new ones on created by Zeiss that fit your prescription. Roughly. I'm sure they only have a set number of kind of things, but that will be something you'll have to pay for. So yeah, it's insane. I think it looks cool, and above everything else, one of the other things that I was telling people is I was like, look, everybody should be crazy excited that Apple built this, and they should want it to be as expensive as possible, because when Apple gets into a thing, usually it takes off, and it also usually makes other people see what they're doing right, borrow from what they can, and then iterate and improve upon it, and lots of times for a cheaper price. So it's going to raise, everything else. And being a Gen 1 product, pretty much every Apple Gen 1 product is usually, historically speaking, and is the worst one. Like the first iPhone got quickly outdated. The first Apple Watch got quickly outdated. The first iPad, the first everything. So can you imagine like 5 years down the road when they have a version of this that's $1,000, which most phones today are $1,000? And I'm just guessing, is like that will be when maybe Chris will be like, all right, maybe I can jump in, kind of thing, and maybe it'll be cool enough to do. But I'm
not even in the ecosystem and want to get one.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
crazy. I think it's incredibly dope. I think it's packed full of tech. I think that gaming has a great opportunity here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Of course, in my head, the first thing I went to was Pokemon for some strange reason.
Yeah.
Only because like you have your hands. You know what I'm saying? And so it's not like grab, release a button to throw a ball, and like the AR side of it, and just like the way Pokemon Go implemented AR, and you mix that with Apple, and like you're pulling freaking Pokeballs out of your pocket. You know what I'm saying? Because those cameras can track you so good. So I think like the reason I wanted Chris to bring it up is just because I thought that it really is endless, and it is fun, even as an Android guy. Which, when you're an Android guy, you have to sign a contract that lets people know that we had it first before Apple did it. Like, we just have to remind Apple users of that to be able to get a discount on your phone. But one of the things that Apple does so well is that they wait and they wait and they wait, and then they do it almost perfectly. I think outside of Siri, maybe. I think Siri is probably the dumbest of all the AI assistants.
Might be better than Bixby, but
I've not used Bixby. Yeah. Fair. That's a fair point.
But Alexa and Google virtual assistant, or whatever she's called, the Google lady.
Yeah.
I agree.
Way better. Yeah. Alexa's probably a little bit better. Sorry, I'm not talking to you. But then like Google Assistant is like way up there. And so I'm excited. I'm exactly for the reasons that Chris just said.
Yeah.
Yes, it's crazy expensive. I wish I could try it and own it and all that. $3,500. I'm not talking anybody into that price tag. But it does also go to show, probably more unfortunately, who it's for. It's not for the masses. No. And so that's kind of a bummer, where the Quest was obviously for the masses, is for the masses, has productivity things, but obviously is gaming heavy. And so I would hope that the Apple Vision Pro, or whatever it's called, I know it's going to be the opposite, but I hope that it leans gaming a little bit and doesn't just stay productivity, because I just don't know how much you can do on the productivity side of things. Like, they'll figure it out, and there'll be all kind of crazy things. I'll be like, oh, but I just don't know if like typing in the air is going to do it, or if you're going to have like, because you're going to be able to Bluetooth keyboards and stuff like that to it, and I guess you can type like that, but I just don't know how much of the looking down at just a table and it broadcasting a keyboard down there. I don't know how fast that'll actually be.
Yeah.
And so,
there was definitely. I'm
excited.
Even for as crazy as it seems in the capability standpoint, it's still a Gen 1 product and going to have lots of growing pains. It's going to, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. But like you said, there's great reason to be excited. I believe.
Yep.